It's on.
Paul, the apostle, and also a politician. And so was John the Baptist. And so was Christ. Taking a look at these three men, how should we vote? What should we vote for? Well, the number one thing I look at when it comes to voting is the person for abortion. As a Christian, that should be the number one thing on our agenda. Because if a person is not able to help the most helpless human on the face of this planet, he's not interested in helping me either. He's interested in helping himself. Okay, so once you get that out of the way, as a Christian, then you can look at other things to see who is the most honest. And the thing I'm going to be taking a look at today is, does the person lie? Is he a person that exaggerates truth, stretches things? In politics, you have to be open about certain things and not so open about others. And at the same time, in today's society, we need to show the weakness of the other opponent. Okay, and we're going to see that today in our lesson, and how the Apostle Paul has done that. Okay, first we're going to read in the book of James 3:14. It says, and of course this is the reason why I'm taking a look at this particular subject, because the King James says, "But if you have bitter envy and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth." Listen closely to what that said. It didn't say that it was a sin to have those. It says if you have those. The Bible tells us anger and sin not. You know, I'm pretty upset at my boss right now at work. He was a jerk to me yesterday. And it seems like, man, I could just never get along with my bosses for some reason. I thought this guy coming along, he might be different, but truthfully, the more I get to know him, the more I realize that he is no different than any of the other bosses that I have ever met or known. He's there to protect himself and the company, and he really don't care that much about his employees. Okay, so it says, and this is why I'm saying it. The Bible is indicating here that if you have bitter envy and strife in your hearts, if you have it, didn't say it's wrong, didn't even say it's wrong here. It says glory not and lie not against the truth. If you have those things, lie not against the truth, but bring out your opponent's weaknesses in the most honest manner that you can. Okay, like when Trump was attacked by Cruz. No doubt Trump was attacked first. So what does that tell you about those two men? Okay, and Trump, he attacked back. He attacked back hard, and he attacked back in the same manner, which he didn't go outside of the line. To me, that shows an honesty about who he is. Okay, but where did Cruz get this thing from in Trump's wife? You know, I mean, where did it come from? Bitter envy and strife, glory not and lie not against the truth. So the glory not part is definitely against Cruz, because he brought that out to lift himself up. Okay, and of course both men are doing that. Both men are bringing things out to lift themselves up, but both men are not doing it in a fashion against the Word of God. Okay, all right. Let's move on to Luke 13:32. Okay. NIV says, this is talking about Jesus. He was getting ready to go to the cross, and somebody sent word to him that Pilate had said something about him.
Oh my God.
Well, let's back up just a little bit here, okay, to and we'll stay with the NIV, 1332. Strolling on down, Jesus sorrowed over Jerusalem. And at that time, 31, the Pharisees came and said to him, "Leave this place and go somewhere else." Herod, so it wasn't Pilate, it was Herod, and those two are working together on this thing. Herod wants to kill you. And the Lord replied to him, he says, "Go tell that fox, I will keep on driving out demons and healing people today and tomorrow, and on the third day I will reach my goal. In any case, I must press on today and tomorrow and the next day, for surely no prophet can die outside Jerusalem." Okay. So, okay, this is what the Lord's... Now, this was a political statement. This was a political statement. No doubt. It was directed to the leader of the community of that day. To a leader in the community. He would be like an advocate judge, so to speak, today. Okay, so he would... and he was definitely sitting in a king's jurisdiction, place of jurisdiction. Okay, so and the Lord said to him, "Go tell that fox," meaning that I recognize who you are, I recognize what you're doing, I recognize how you do it, I recognize your heart in all that you do. I recognize that you're a political leader. I recognize your stance in how you do things. Go tell that fox, you know. And you know, we're all aware of what people say when they mention a fox. A fox is sly. He's tricky, and he knows how to get his dinner. He'll run into a chicken house, man, a fox will, and he'll stir things up so that he can figure out which chicken is the easiest to catch. The one that's moving the slowest. He's a slow old fox. So, you know, and that's the way they do things. Okay. So, and that's why Jesus referred to him as a fox, because he's cunning in the manner and the way that he does. And politicians are like that. They're like that. Look at our politicians today. You know, some of our politicians. But the thing of it is how are you going? It's not wrong to be cunning in the manner which way you do things, but it's wrong when you cross the line of treacherously lying, okay, to other people about it. and so now we're going to look at Apostle Paul here. Acts 16:37. When Paul was brought before them, and he was beaten here. Actually, Apostle Paul was beaten 5 times. He was stoned 5 times and left to die, and he was beaten multiple times. He was shipwrecked. You know, he wasn't a man easy to give up on things that he had in mind to do for God or what God had sent him to do. But this time, he was brought out openly, and I wish I had known a little bit more about this. I had a chance, my fault, to study, but I was, you know, once I get out of this factory I'm in, I'll get a lot more in depth and have a lot more information for you. But here, this is good enough. And the reason why I'm mentioning where it's at is because so you can go there and take a look exactly what I'm talking about. Paul said to them, "They have beaten us openly, uncondemned, being Romans." Now, when he said that, being Romans, he was making a political move, because the Romans had, in that day, the Romans had the authority. The Romans had final say in the word of what, if there's could actually be a punishment made or something that was going on, and apparently Paul was tired of getting beat, you know, so he's going to make his political move, and and try to keep himself out of trouble, and it did work. It did work. And the rest of the verse says, and have cast us into prison, and now they do trust. They thrust us out privately. He says, no. Verily, but, and this is King James, but let them come themselves to fetch us out. Okay. The NIV. But Paul said to the officers, they beat us publicly without a trial, even though we are Roman citizens, and throw us into prison. And now they want to get rid of us quietly? No. Let them come themselves and escort us out. Paul was making a political move, and once he done this, he really put the hurt back on them. And there's a lot of political moves that you can make, and see, so it's not wrong to be cunning in the way that you do things, like Paul did right there, but it's wrong in the fashion, in how you do it. And Paul wrote five of the most popular books in the Bible, instruction for the last days of grace and mercy. And you know, a lot of people that think, well, it's all about grace, they take one look at this verse and one look at that verse, and they pretty much lay it down and cool, you know, I'm good, I don't have to do nothing except sit back and wait for God. You better go read the parable of the talents, because the parable of the talents says if you do that, man, you are in extreme danger of losing your salvation. Last 3 verses in the book of James. So, John the Baptist was also a political person. He was a prophet. He was very political. He even died for that cause. The king's illegal wife, who John the Baptist had told him about, daughter, who was in the king's house at this time, they had Paul beheaded because that's what the mother asked for, because she was upset. Where there is no, how's the Bible say that? There is no scorn, like the scorn of an angry woman. There was a couple other words in there, but this was an angry woman that was upset, excuse me, at John the Baptist, because he had openly rebuked her. Now this is a political move. It's what politics is about. It's showing people the wrongdoings of the other person, but it's showing them in a right manner, in truth. You know, and that's what I see in Trump. I don't see any nasty, unprovoked moves in Trump. I don't see any. If there is any, you know, go point them out. But who to vote for as a Christian, I think it is the choice is clear. Yeah, Trump, he's not a politician. He doesn't know the magic words to say to please everybody in their offenses and all that stuff like that. And you can see that the media has used all that stuff against him and has lied to him. And he's just an open, honest man about how he feels, you know, about certain people. So they'll take a statement about a certain person and try to make it fit that he believes like that about all people. No, he doesn't. But the Apostle Paul was a politician, and he was one very similar to what Trump is today. No, he was a little closer to God for sure. You know what I'm saying? He was a little closer to God, and maybe that's Trump's only fault, you know. But I bet you one thing for sure, man. By the end of Trump's term in office as president, he will learn to be a lot closer to God. Just like Abraham Lincoln, you can go and look in the Oval Office, a certain part of that office, there is a rug with Abraham Lincoln's knee prints where it wore 2 holes in the carpet. let me tell you something. If you care about the people in this country, I bet you there has been president after president after president finally learned to place their knees in the same place. In the same place where Abraham Lincoln put his. Amen. Already, God bless you. Well, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next time. Another great message right here, Crossing the Middle Ministry.